The billionaire bought the ranch on a whim. At least, that's what the papers would later say. To Victor Hale, the abandoned property was not a whim at all. It was an escape. At 46, Victor had everything most people dreamed of: private jets, penthouses overlooking glassy oceans, companies that printed money while he slept. What he didn't have was quiet, or trust, or a place where his name didn't precede him like a shadow. So when his assistant slid a thin file across the desk and said, "There's an old ranch 2 hours outside the city. Bank owned. No buyers in years," Victor barely glanced at the photos. Dry fields. A sagging barn. A house with peeling paint and broken windows. Perfect. He bought it that afternoon. Cash, no inspection. He instructed the local realtor to lock the gates, post private property signs, and leave him alone. "I won't be visiting for a while," Victor said. "Just make sure no one's there." "We checked," the realtor assured him. "It's been empty for years." Victor nodded and forgot about it. For weeks, work swallowed him again. Board fights, hostile takeovers, endless meetings with people who smiled too much and meant too little. By the time he remembered the ranch, winter had crept in quietly. One Friday night, exhausted and irritated beyond reason, Victor canceled his weekend meetings, grabbed a small bag, and drove himself out of the city before dawn. He didn't bring security. He hadn't told anyone where he was going. As the paved roads turned to gravel and the cell signal faded, something inside him loosened. The air smelled of cold earth and pine. When the ranch gates finally appeared, rusted but standing, Victor felt a strange sense of relief. He unlocked them, drove through, and stopped dead. There was smoke rising from the chimney. Victor sat frozen in the driver's seat, staring at the house. Smoke meant fire. Fire meant people. His jaw tightened. He reached into the glove compartment where he kept a flashlight and a tire iron, habits from a childhood far removed from his current life. Slowly, he stepped out of the car. The house looked different than in the photos. The broken windows had been boarded up. The front porch had been swept. A light glowed warmly behind the curtains. Someone had been living here. Victor walked up the steps, his boots loud against the wood. He knocked once, firmly. Silence. Then footsteps. The door opened a few inches, and a woman's face appeared. She was in her early 30s, hair pulled back, eyes sharp with caution. "Yes," she asked. "This is private property," Victor said evenly. "I own this ranch." Her eyes flicked past him, to the car, the gates, the darkness beyond. She didn't slam the door or shout. Instead, she opened it wider. "I know," she said. "Please, just come inside. It's cold." Against his better judgment, Victor stepped in. The house was warm, clean. A fire crackled in the hearth. A kettle steamed on the stove. And there were 4 women standing in the living room, all watching him carefully. One was older, maybe in her 60s, with silver-streaked hair and tired eyes that had seen too much. Another looked barely out of her teens, clutching a mug with both hands. The third stood near the window, arms crossed, protective. The fourth, the one who'd opened the door, seemed to be the center of gravity. "No one told us the owner was coming," the older woman said gently. "No one told me anyone was living here," Victor replied. The younger girl swallowed. "We're not squatters." "Not really." Victor let out a slow breath. "Then start explaining." They did. The woman who'd opened the door introduced herself as Mara. The older one was Helen. The young girl was Lucy. The quiet, watchful one by the window was Joe. They hadn't come together, Victor learned. Life had pushed them here one by one. Helen had lost her house after her husband died and medical bills ate through her savings. Lucy had aged out of foster care with nowhere to go. Joe had fled an abusive situation 3 counties away. Mara had been living out of her car after a business partnership collapsed and left her with nothing but debt. They found the ranch empty. Broken. Forgotten. "We fixed what we could," Mara said quietly. "We didn't steal anything. We grow our own food. We planned to leave once winter passed." Victor looked around again, seeing details he'd missed before. Fresh curtains. Repaired floorboards. A calendar on the wall with chores neatly written in different handwriting. "You broke into my house," he said. Helen nodded. "Yes. And you stayed." "Yes." Silence filled the room. Victor had evicted people before. Entire buildings cleared with a signature. He knew the process, knew the language, but something about this was different. These women weren't reckless, or lazy, or entitled. They were surviving. Do you know who I am? Victor asked. Mara met his eyes. Victor Hale. Hale Industries. Lucy's eyes widened. Joe stiffened. Helen sighed. Of course you are. Victor expected fear, or pleading. Instead, Helen said, then you can decide what happens next. Victor walked to the fireplace, staring into the flames. He thought of his penthouse, empty and silent. Of his childhood bedroom, shared with 2 siblings, always loud, always alive. How long have you been here? He asked. 6 weeks, Mara said. And if I call the police? Joe spoke for the first time. We'll go. Tonight. We won't fight. Lucy's hands shook. Victor turned around. No, he said. They stared at him. No police, he repeated. At least not tonight. Relief washed over the room, but caution remained. I bought this place to be alone, Victor said. I won't pretend this isn't complicated. Mara nodded. We understand. Victor rubbed his face. I'm staying here for the weekend. Joe blinked. Here, yes, it's my ranch. Of course, Mara said quickly. We'll take the barn, or the shed. No, Victor interrupted. You'll stay. I'll take one of the empty rooms. The weekend stretched into something unexpected. They shared meals, talked late by the fire. Victor learned that Helen used to teach literature. That Lucy wanted to become a vet. That Joe fixed engines better than most mechanics. That Mara had once run a small but successful company built on fair wages and loyalty. In return, they learned that Victor wasn't married. That his parents had died young. That his wealth often felt heavier than poverty ever had. By Sunday night, the ranch felt alive. Victor didn't leave. Instead, he made calls. Not to lawyers, not to security. He called contractors, inspectors, suppliers. Over the next month, the ranch transformed. The roof was repaired, the fields cleared, solar panels installed, a greenhouse built. Victor drew up contracts, not eviction notices. He offered Helen a paid role managing the property's small library and records. Lucy received funding for school. Joe was hired to oversee maintenance and training. Mara became the ranch's operations manager, with full authority. This isn't charity, Victor told them. It's an investment. Mara smiled softly. In what? People, he said. The story eventually leaked, as stories always do. A billionaire, an abandoned ranch, 4 women who changed everything. But the truth was simpler. Victor had bought the ranch to disappear. Instead, he found something he hadn't known he was searching for. A home.